Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. Tonight is Thursday, December 27th, 2018. And tonight's topic, Hi-Ho Silver. India lands iPhone assembly deal. We also reported Indian silver import numbers for the month of October. We're going to be going through the Indian silver story, taking a look at some charts, but first take a look at the markets. So gold and silver today. We're up a little bit again, and we're seeing a bit of movement now for about 6 straight weeks in the gold and silver markets. And gold today went up a little bit, but then it came down slightly, but it did end the day higher. So let's take a look at the gold price on our chart, and we see that gold closed up about $8.42. And it closed up around $12.74, and that's about where it trades at the moment. And this is against the backdrop of a equity market that opened the day lower, giving back almost half of its gains, and then rose into the close. As we had discussed yesterday, we're going to play a clip from what we talked about yesterday on what might happen in the stock market and how the plunge protection team might have reacted to any decline during the day. Now let's take a look at silver. Now silver did a little better than gold yesterday, managing a slight gain when gold went down, and silver actually outperformed gold again today. Now this is a good sign. Now it may be part of what we've been talking about. If gold continues to rise, then you'll start to see silver play a bit of catch up. Not sure we're that far into a gold rally for this to be happening, but given that silver has been down for so long, that perhaps it needs to start playing catch up even at the early stages of a nascent bull run here. So silver closed above $15 again, closed at $15.21, up 19 cents, and that's up 1.727%. And what did that do to the unsustainable gold silver ratio, the one that's supposed to be 16-1, 9-1, or 1-1? Well, it did help out the ratio a bit. Went down a little bit, still well above 80, but fell down to 83.84. And we would expect to continue to see that fall down if both metals continue to rise. We would expect that ratio to narrow, although we don't expect it to narrow to 1-1, 9-1, or 16-1. But if the gold and silver prices continue to rise, we would expect silver to outperform gold if, again, they both continue to rise. All right, now what happened in the equity markets today? Pretty much what we suggested or predicted might happen yesterday when we talked about the plunge protection team. Let's have a listen to what we mentioned last night on this show as to what might happen in the market if the stock market fell at the open. It's astounding how they're able to do that. Sentiment was totally down, stock market going down for days and days and days, for months, and then boom. Now, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Maybe there's no sell-through. I would imagine if they're serious about this, you might see a lower open. In fact, I'm going to check the pre-market. Let's see where the futures are for tomorrow. And they're down. Yes, that's what I would expect. They'd be down 132 points. You might expect a bit of a sell-off. But if you see a sell-off in the morning and then the price rise in the afternoon, you know exactly what's happening. The plunge protection team is back on the case. Now, it could be, remember yesterday we talked about, they may not go along with this. Okay, well, it looks like that's exactly what happened. Price went down a little bit, stayed down for a long time, and then to send the message, the markets somehow recovered essentially 700 points, because at one point the Dow Jones Industrial Average, was down all the way down to 2250, and it went all the way back up to about 2338. Yeah, that sound there was because I was playing the recording from last night, so that's why it sounded a little different. If you didn't hear it, what I was saying was I expected the markets to open lower, just because anytime you have that type of rally, it'd be profit taking. But then if the markets were to hold lower, that if the PPT was serious about promoting the market, you would see a rise in the afternoon. And you did see it. It was basically from 3 o'clock onward. We kind of hit the bottom around 2:30, 2:45. And then boom, out of nowhere, you saw the stock market, or at least the Dow, jump from 22,250 to 23,130, nearly an 900 point rise in the stock market. Now, what happened with the other markets? NASDAQ also managed to get up 25 points, as did the S&P 500. So the Dow finished up 1.14%, NASDAQ up 0.38%, and the S&P 500 up 0.86%. So it looks like there is some staying power to the plunge protection team. Now there's a little more to talk about. Last night I mentioned, let me just show you the chart there. There is what happened. You can see it, as I mentioned, around 2:50 in the afternoon, 2:45 we hit bottom, and then away we went all the way up to 23,138. Now that is a big deal. Okay, now last night I was talking about how the plunge protection team helped to manipulate the market higher. It's not just the plunge protection team. This is official policy that we've had, and we've had many of the Fed officials talk about why they did QE. They did QE because they wanted to raise asset prices. Bernanke said they wanted to create a wealth effect. They wanted to create rising stock and real estate prices. That was the purpose of lowering interest rates, printing money, and doing QE. And Fed Fisher actually said as such. Fed Chair Fisher said a while back, I'll show you here, in 2014, he made the statement that we made people richer. The question is, what have we done for working men and women in America? QE was a massive gift intended to boost wealth. Dallas Fed President Richard Fisher. Not Fed Chair Fisher. This is Dallas Fed President Richard Fisher. That was the purpose of QE. They knew they couldn't generate gains in the real economy, i.e. profits, revenues, and so on, but they knew they can revalue the existing assets, the existing stock companies, and the existing housing prices. Remember, a house price that goes higher, and the house doesn't get any better. In fact, the house is generally older, and unless you repair it and maintain it, it's not any better. It just costs more money. That's just a revaluation of asset prices. There's no additional production. There's nothing else happening other than someone sitting on a couch and a $210,000 house. They sit there for 7 years, and when they leave, it's worth $230,000. The house is probably no better off than it was when it was $220,000. Very similar to the companies we mention all the time. 10 years growth, 25% GDP growth, stock market up 300, 400%. Clearly, that's what they intended to do, and they did it through monetary policy. Well, then they try fiscal policy, tax cuts, stimulus, and so on. And when that doesn't work, they've got the plunge protection team, they've got the exchange stabilization fund. But here's what our friend Janet Yellen once said, and this is a direct quote when she was named the head of the Fed, and she was asked about QE, and she said, "You know, a lot of people say that it's just helping rich people, but it's not true. Our policy is aimed at holding down long-term interest rates, which support the recovery by encouraging spending. And part of it comes through higher house prices and stock prices, which causes people with homes and stocks to spend more, which causes jobs to be created throughout the economy and income to go up throughout the economy." Well, there you go. Janet Yellen basically saying that we like QE because it raises prices, makes them feel rich, creates a wealth effect, and they will go out because they think their house is worth more money. They'll spend more money. Stock prices go up, they'll spend more money. It's exactly what is created by Fed policy, Fed monetary policy, that's designed to increase asset prices. And really, they can't do much. They're not in a jobs program creation. They are there to create monetary policy, and that's exactly what they do. And that monetary policy pushes up asset prices, but again, doesn't push up the value of the real economy, other than through spending, and 70% of the U.S. economy is spending. So in that sense, you can say that's how they did it. But again, it is direct intervention and manipulation. Over in China, before we get to our main story, China to crush the dollar. Well, here's a new one. Just in, China's industrial profits fell 1.8% year over year in November, first drop this year, versus 3.6% growth in October. So I don't know if the wheels are coming off the Chinese economy, but it is certainly a slowing down train. And that's not good, because in a Ponzi scheme, you have to keep growing. And they have clearly stopped growing in some instances, and in the pace of growth in other instances is slowing. Here is another one that I misread, but I'll read it anyway. Hawaii Technologies is forecast to record a record $108 billion in sales in 2018. That's a year-over-year growth of 21%. I misread that to be that Hawaii Technologies is forced to report a record $108.5 billion in sales, because how the Chinese government sometimes likes to take their financial information and just dust it up a little bit so that it looks a little better. So I thought maybe they were forcing that company to report better sales than they had. And also Belt and Road. Remember I talked about how there's always the gold pumpers are always talking about how China is going to crush the dollar in the Belt and Road, and I call that the expansion of the Chinese domestic Ponzi scheme overseas. Well, here's another example of how you expand that Ponzi scheme, you build stuff in other countries, you take on a lot of debt, and when they can't pay it back, what do? You light a match and end up owning the whole thing. So China to take over Kenya's largest port over unpaid Chinese loan. But the gold back yuan, game changer, gold 50,000, it's all tied into that China narrative. In other news, Facebook got a smackdown in Brazil. Brazil orders Facebook to restore free Brazil pages. Well, that's a first there, because that is the government getting directly involved and telling Facebook, you can't censor here, and you're going to have to uncensor and restore those pages. Wonder if that happens in the United States. Also a big story, I don't know if it's a big story, if it's just another one of these things they've run up the flagpole. This one's very strange. This sources say one of Michael Cohen's mobile phones briefly lit up cell towers in late summer of 2016 in the vicinity of Prague, undercutting his denials that he wasn't in Prague. Cohen has said that he never went to Prague. Part of the Steele dossier mentions that Michael Cohen, which many people have that name, went to Prague to meet with some Russian ambassador to exchange information, some shadowy meeting that was designed to have the Trump campaign in Russia collude and figure out how to tip the election away from Hillary Clinton. Michael Cohen showed his passport, said he was never there. His client insisted he's never been there. He was not accused of lying to having never been there, but somehow McClatchy newspaper has evidence that his cell phone, I don't know how they figure this out, but I'm sure there's ways of doing it, but I'm sure that maybe this isn't a true story, that they had his cell phone for a brief moment, somehow, that they're sure, sources say, that they had his cell phone on target or found in the vicinity of the Prague area. Now, that doesn't mean he was there, doesn't mean he said anything, doesn't even mean the story's true, but of course, it is one of those things, even if it's not, it's great to get out there. I'd be interested to see exactly how they know this, and exactly if they can prove it's Michael Cohen's phone, if they can prove he was there, if they can prove he had meetings, if they can prove what they said in those meetings, and so on. But officially, he said he wasn't there. His lawyer insists he wasn't there. He has not been accused or charged with lying about that. So that just seems to me a sensational story. But again, they should research it, but they said they've already researched it. But of course, no name, no person has been able to say who is the person who told him this. Sources say that this is true. I'm not sure if it is. By the way, if you're interested in your Smaulgld mugs, these two beauties are on sale tonight only, 50% off. That is the Smaulgld frosted mug and the Smaulgld beer mug. Now that's very interesting. That makes those products, those mugs, very inexpensive this evening. You get them for half price. I'm going to leave you the link right now at the products page, and there you go. You can check those out. Don't forget to do it, because that sale won't last, and then they'll be back up to $26.95 and $24.50. These are ordered from this store. I don't ship these out. These will get shipped out from the Smaulgld store. I know many of you have ordered from the store, positive results from there. And of course, many of you ordered directly from me, the Smaulgld Classic and Super Classic mugs, and I deliver those within 2 days, priority shipping. Okay, all right, what else do we got before we move on to our Indian silver story, an Indian iPhone story, which is the topic of the evening. I wanted to make sure we haven't left out any of the top news stories. There's one more. Ohio gun law. As you know, many of Republicans are leaving this year. We're losing Corker from Tennessee. We're losing Flake from Arizona. Ryan from Wisconsin. We've lost McCain. And now we're losing Governor Kasich this year as governor. And he was delivered his final rebuke. There was a gun owner rights bill that he vowed to veto, and both the Senate and the House in Ohio overruled his veto, and he'll be out the door in January. All right, well, I think we're ready now to get into our top story for the evening, which is India has landed an iPhone contract, which probably should lead to more silver demand, and we're going to take a look at some of the Indian silver demand numbers that came out in October, record silver demand. So let's get started. Uh-oh, we got a moron here.
Presenting the distinguished international news commentator and foreign correspondent.
This has been an extraordinary week in world affairs.
No, I told Hillary Clinton that that's moronic.
Okay, well, India is becoming quite a magnet for cell phone manufacturers, and it's also becoming quite a large, and has been quite a large, consumer of silver. And the bulk of that silver, as we mentioned, is not for stacking, but has been for industry, solar panels, electronics, and then the rest of it really for jewelry and silverware. India accounts for 70% of the world's silverware. Now remember, this is a country with a population about the size of China, well over 1 billion people. Wealthier people now as a result of much industry moving into India. Still relatively a poor country, as is China, and there are pockets of wealth in both countries, but still hundreds of million people in the middle class in India able to buy silver jewelry, silverware, and also use silver for industry in their growing electronics business. The news today that was out was Foxconn, which is a Taiwanese manufacturer, will begin assembling the top-end Apple iPhones in India in 2019. That's the first time they're going to be doing that, and somewhat of a shot at China, because they will be moving some of their production capacity into India. And Foxconn already makes cell phones there for an Indian company, and now they're going to invest another $400-500 million to expand the plant so that they can make the iPhone there as well. And they're saying that might add 25,000 jobs, according to Reuters. Now, they also, India had mentioned that they were building the world's largest cell phone factory in the world for Samsung, and that was announced just a couple of months ago. So India has now become a very big player in the manufacturing of cell phones, moving some of that away from China. So let's take a look now. We released earlier today a series of charts on Indian silver imports, and we noted that India imported, if you look to the far right, 1,300 1,032 tons of silver. That's an enormous amount of silver. I believe that is about 33 million ounces. That's 1 month. 1 month of silver, 33 million ounces brought into the country. And that's because they have a silver mining production, but not much, maybe 10, 15 million ounces a year. Yes, that is 33.1 million ounces in the month of October. And last month, you can see they brought in 618 tons. So they have been pulling in tremendous amounts of silver. In fact, they are on a pace right now that's ahead of last year by well over 60%. And you can see here some very strong months in 2018 versus 2017. And if you compare that to, I'll give you a longer term chart. Well, first let's just look at the year, October to October. You can see to the far right, 1,032 tons versus in October versus 637 tons in October 2017. And again, that's good for about a 62% increase. And you also see in April there was a big month, 902 tons. Again, this silver is going towards industry, is going towards jewelry and silverware. Now, we did mention, there's another post that we did, that Indians are not big on investment silver. I think 2015 there was a surge in investment silver. They were buying bars, but that's gone down dramatically, just as investment silver has gone down dramatically in the rest of the world. And also, if you're interested, we did a video and a blog post on U.S. silver stackers versus Chinese silver stackers, and that showed that Americans actually, even today, buy more investment silver than the Chinese do. So silver is really an American investment vehicle. In Europe, there's a VAT tax on it, but there's strong silver demand, as we've seen, for jewelry in countries like China and India, big middle classes. It's more of a wealth effect than a doomsday scenario purchase. It's not a stack for the apocalypse. It's more buy and show. It's show and tell. Show off your wealth, buy jewelry, get silverware, and also, of course, the industrial component with growing industry. But here you can see that the 1,032 tons of silver was the largest import month since December 2015. And what does December 2015 have in common with October 2018? Basically $14 silver. So Indians are very price sensitive, and that makes sense. When things are cheap, you're going to buy more jewelry. Not when they're more expensive. Things are cheap, you're going to buy more silverware. Also, when you're increasing your industrial capacity, irrespective of whether the world is, well, then you're going to need more silver as well. So that bodes well for the Indian silver story, as you can see. And let's just take a look at India over time. And, oh, that's not the one. We want to see India silver imports since 1999. And you can clearly see a very nice rise there. Looks like this year will be the second or maybe the first. I doubt it. They'd have to import another 1,000 tons for the next 2 months plus to get well over 8,500. They should get above 7,169, which was the second biggest year, which was 2014, if they just add another 500-600 tons the next 2 months in November and December. But still a very big month for India in October. Now, how does that compare to, I don't have the chart for you tonight, but the Indian silver demand, when it's like 200 and I think this year it's like 297 million ounces so far. That's more, no, 197 million ounces. That's more than Mexico produces in a year. Mexico produces about 180 to 190 million ounces. And India itself is importing close to 200 million ounces so far this year. And in 2015, they imported 275 million ounces. So you can see India is a big consumer of silver, doesn't produce that much. And so is China. I mean, those are big silver consumers. Silver is an industrial metal, and they have the added demand coming from jewelry and silverware. All right, let's see what you guys are saying tonight. And let's see. All right. De La Ville is here. Taylor Collins says, what a day. See what happened to silver. Yep. Equities had a 900-point swing also. Yeah, it was 900 points. It was down, and that happened. That run-up happened exactly as I mentioned in that echo that you heard, that I said that if the plunge protection team was serious, that they would boost it at the end of the day, and that's exactly what they did. Towards the end of the day, we saw the prices rising. Pablo is here. All right. Nicholas Smith likes the reverb computer voice. Pablo says it sounds like that because Lewis was talking into his mug. That's a good one. Mugs have many uses. Taylor Collins, drinking my third brew out of my Smaulgld frosted mug right now. And don't forget, while we're going through these comments, you might as well order your Smaulgld mugs now because indeed they are 50% off. The link is in the chat there. And if you can't find it, it's basically zazzle.com/Smaulgld and you will find it. But those two are on sale tonight, 50% off. Very good bargains. And if you want the regular Smaulgld mugs, the classic and super classic, you can order those directly from Smaulgld.com. All right, everything tastes better in Smaulgld mugs and glasses, says De La Ville. What a brand, says Pablo. Taylor Collins, I live in Vermont with many, many craft breweries, so likely one you haven't heard of. He's talking about the beer he's drinking. It's called Two Roads, Too Juicy, a New England IPA, and it tastes better in a Smaulgld mug. And Pablo says we have a mug protection team here. Yes. Last time it was Lagunitas. Yes, now the Lagunitas, we do have a picture of that. Taylor Collins gurgling down his Lagunitas. We have proof of that. And here it is. There is the Smaulgld frosted mug. Oh, it's upside down today. But there it is. You can see it. And of course, we've got many pictures from people taking pictures with their dogs and of their Smaulgld mugs and glasses. Taylor Collins, I think we have a lot of huge fans of beers and especially hop-forward beers, and it's a cold 5 months out of the year, so more time to drink indoors, he says. All right, you guys are having a big quality beer discussion there. All right, let's see what we got. Now I need to fill my cabinets with a variety of Smaulgld mugs and even dog bowls. Yes, and again, you can get those tonight. Just the frosted and the beer stein. The beer stein is a whopping 22 ounces. All right. Now, by the way, while we're talking about India, you know why it's called the Indian Pale Ale? And it's usually a very hoppy brew. Well, the reason for that is hops were not always used in the production of beer. Oftentimes, beers were flavored, but they were not flavored with hops. They might be flavored with cherry juices and things like that. The reason for the hops was to preserve the beer as it was shipped from Old Blight in England to the subcontinent. So it would get on a ship in a barrel and it would spoil if it did not have the hops in it. And that is why you now have Indian Pale Ale. You learn something new every day. De La Ville says, we're in a mug cult. Oh, Miser says, I have my Smaulgld mug now. I am whole. Silver's above $15. Oh, a lot of people. Let's see. What else have we got here? I hope silver sits under $15 for 2019, stacking at a great price as Loco1J. Taylor Collins, YouTube censoring my comments about whiskey stocks and related tariffs. Yeah, I didn't see that. I did. Hold on. Let's see. Did they? No, I see two comments. I don't know if you see them, but it says, Taylor Collins says, we will have to see what happens to whiskey stocks. Then you say, because of tariffs and shortage, many whiskey stocks have potential to get volatile and jump around. I know they if someone says something is retarded, they will ban that comment. If the word death is in the comments, they will ban that. I haven't had any troubles with cussing and swearing, but yes, the filter does take out some of the comments. But that one is in there about the whiskey tariffs. India will grow economical for the iPhone assembly. More Indians will buy more silver, personally raising the price. Yes, and again, Pablo, that's not stacking silver. That's buying silver because they can. It's the wealth effect. In fact, I think far more of the physical demand for gold and silver, if it's for jewelry, it has to be because they have money to buy it, not because they're concerned about dollar collapse and game over and game changer in China to crush the dollar and gold back yuan and silver shortage and COMEX default and all the other nonsense that you hear. They're buying because they can. Documented daily. I hope the world goes to crap so everyone can suffer the consequences of valueless monetary system. I'm sick of this paper crap. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. If you want to do your part and you're really, really tired and you want to help out, end the whole dollar hegemony and the whole paper game, send whatever papers you have with the green ones with the pictures of Washington or Lincoln or Jackson to Smaulgld LLC, P.O. Box 714, Dover, New Hampshire 03820. Also, if you've got those checks that say you can write a number in there and send worthless paper crap, you can send checks to that box office as well. And if you have a PayPal account and you want to wire some of that worthless paper crap, please send it my way. I will find a way of disposing it and helping to end dollar hegemony and the paper Ponzi scheme. My IQ has gone up since receiving it. That is all you need to know. Pablo asked Miser, which mug did you get? Russian economy will also improve, I believe, but not from silver accumulation. Well, the Russian economy will improve from, I guess, agricultural exports and oil exports. Miser says that his mug was wrapped very well. Could have survived a nuclear blast. Taylor got the super classic mug. I think I must have shipped that one. The one with the red is the super classic. Yes, that's what you got. Miser, I want that super classic. Well, I'll mail them out again tomorrow. I have some already lined up to go out. So if you want to order a super classic, that one is, just go to smaulgld.com. That one is just $23.99 with the priority shipping, with the personal note, and that gets there in 2 days. Taylor Collins, Lewis, I'm curious, where did Smaulgld name come from? Are you a fan of the book The Hobbit? Yes, I was just fiddling around. I was actually writing Smaug, and I've always liked the thing of tall, small, Paul, and Smaug is not Smaulgld. It's Smaug. And then I was just fiddling around, and I wrote small gold, and then I wrote small GLD. So it is somewhat, and you could see the S is somewhat inspired also by the dragon in the Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, and so on. So Smaulgld does owe a nod somewhat to Lord of the Rings. Unobtainium and other obscure metals to pump before gold and silver. All right, let's see what else we got here. Pablo Pina, is the super classic bigger than the regular one? No. The ones that I ship, those are both 10 ounces. They're like the perfect size for coffee. On the Smaulgld site, the Zazzle Smaulgld store, you can buy a 16-ounce mug in that style. Let's see. I think we're done here for comments. All right, so I want to thank everyone for joining me tonight. Tomorrow, I hope we can get into Indian gold demand, Indian gold imports. And also, I have a topic to discuss, which is about the sovereign individual and middlemen. So it's kind of taking a diversion from gold and silver and getting into economics and personal liberty and so on. So thank you very much for joining me, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you very much.